My wife of 16 years has essentially disappeared for the last 3 days, and I feel completely lost. I'm hoping for some perspective. My wife, 39, and I, 40, have been married for 16 years. We have 3 daughters, 15, 13, and 11. We were high school sweethearts and have been together for 22 years. Here's what I know. 3 days ago, my wife came home from work. She had to work the following day, but seemed panicked and emotional. She quickly packed an overnight bag and left. I only found out because our oldest daughter was home and saw it happen. Despite my attempts to talk to her, my wife was crying, overwhelmed, and silent. She appeared to be in near panic. Since then, she has not responded to any texts or calls. I reached out to her parents, and they assured me she's safe with them, asking for patience and understanding. I also contacted her sister, brother, and a close work friend. Her brother said he knew nothing. Her work friend confirmed she had been at work that morning, but left by lunch 3 days ago. That's all she knew. So here I am, 3 days with no word from my wife, not even to our kids. No one is sharing information, and I'm left alone with our daughters, trying to manage. The girls keep asking what's going on and what happened to their mom. All I can say is that she's with their grandparents, and that we're supposed to be patient. I've had the urge to just pack the kids in the car and drive the 3 hours to her parents' house, but I've held back. The kids fear we had a huge fight and are divorcing, but that couldn't be further from the truth. We never fight, and the kids know that. I can't make sense of any of this. From a logical perspective, if someone close had passed away, wouldn't a spouse be the first person notified? If some trauma resurfaced, wouldn't she lean on me? Right now, I'm left in total silence, and it's unbearable. My daughters and I know nothing, and no one is telling us anything. I feel worried, scared, and angry, all at once. Why would someone disappear on their family like this? First update. Many of you suspected correctly. It was an affair. My father-in-law didn't call me back last night, so I eventually contacted the police for a wellness check. As many suggested, that opened a storm of problems I won't go into here. But here's the truth. My wife has been in an affair for at least 2 years, possibly longer. The other man suffered a heart attack on Tuesday and passed away that night. My mother-in-law, and likely my sister-in-law, knew and had been covering for her. Still no contact from my wife. Not to me, not to our daughters. I'm keeping this from the kids for now. I don't know what to do with this information, but it feels like the end of me. Thank you for the advice and support. Please keep us in your prayers. Second update. I've been encouraged to keep posting, so here's where I'm at. Nights are the worst. Once the house quiets, my mind spirals. I go from deep sadness to rage, sometimes both at once. Sleep hardly comes, and when it does, I wake up suddenly, and the cycle starts again. I now know my wife's affair likely lasted longer than 2 years. The man she cheated with was someone she had known for years. His sudden passing revealed the truth. I'm still piecing together details, often with help from my oldest daughter, though I'm not ready to share everything. I've met with 2 different lawyers to discuss options and reached out for therapy. Though waits are long in my area, I'm trying to follow advice I've been given. No alcohol, self-care, exercise, but finding the energy is tough. I'm not prepared to answer the when, who, why questions yet. Each day feels like a new explosion. What I do know is this: my wife was my best friend since high school, the mother of my daughters, my partner through every milestone. Now it feels like all of it meant nothing to her. That thought cripples me. The anger is overwhelming. I find myself screaming into pillows, hitting the mattress until my arms ache. I fall asleep only from exhaustion, then wake up into the same torment. My girls are doing their best to take care of me, but it's not fair to put this on them. To those who've been through this, How did you cope with the silence of night after discovering betrayal? How did you handle the emptiness? My daughter's well-being is my top priority, but I'm struggling. Third update. It's been just over a week since I discovered the truth. I've learned my wife's affair lasted well over 4 years, likely starting emotionally and later turning physical. Yesterday, my in-laws made an unplanned visit to see the kids. My wife has been staying at their house since this began. After a short visit with the girls, they asked to speak with me privately. The conversation was long, but here's the summary. My wife wants to come home. She's afraid of facing the consequences and the backlash. Her parents pressed me to consider forgiving her and working on the marriage. They looked ashamed and embarrassed, but clearly wanted her out of their house. I told them I wasn't sure about my plans, though the truth is I've decided to divorce. I didn't reveal that because I want my wife to sit down and finally give me answers. After 17 years of marriage and a life built together, I want her to look me in the eye and explain. I also want my children to know that I gave her the chance to own up, apologize, and handle this as adults. Legally, I can't stop her from coming home. My lawyer confirmed that. But I made one condition. She could only return if she sat down with me and answered every question honestly, and then sat with the girls to apologize and answer theirs as well. They already know enough, and I believe it's only fair. I know she isn't obligated to meet these terms, but if she hesitates, that buys me time. I'm not trying to be manipulative. I just need more space to plan and stabilize before sharing a home again. Divorce requires a 90-day waiting period in my state anyway, so I'd like to use that time to prepare. She has been texting the girls, apologizing repeatedly, saying she doesn't want a divorce, and asking about me daily. It's hitting her hard now, but the damage is done. Was my condition unreasonable? My focus remains my daughters and then myself. Fourth update. My wife came home yesterday, after nearly 3 weeks. In the past, I would greet her with a hug and kiss at the door. This time, the air was heavy with discomfort. She tried to hug me, but I turned away. After she settled in, I asked her to finally tell me everything. Just like before, she said she wasn't ready. I reminded her that my only condition for her return was openness, but she repeated the same line. It took all I had not to explode. But eventually I broke. I told her straight. She had an affair for more than 4 years with a coworker, planned to leave me for him, abandoned her family without explanation, and now returned without meeting the one condition I asked for. And with that, I told her I wanted a divorce. When my wife came home, things quickly took an unusual turn. Her body language and facial expression made it clear she didn't realize how much I already knew about the affair. She glanced at me wide-eyed, then stood silently in the kitchen, staring at the floor, completely stoic. I had expected almost anything else. Maybe an emotional breakdown, maybe a confession, or even anger and blame directed at me. I was prepared for raised voices, or at the very least, a serious conversation. Instead, what unfolded was total silence. We stood in the kitchen without speaking for what felt like 5 minutes. It was one of the most awkward and surreal moments I've ever experienced. Neither of us seemed to know what to say, and the tension was overwhelming. I had read through your advice, even taken notes, and practiced different scenarios in front of a mirror. I thought I was ready for any kind of reaction, but not this. So I decided to lay everything out on the table. I told her everything I knew about the affair, including some assumptions I had formed along the way, how she met her partner, the involvement of her sister, and what may have happened during the pandemic. Through it all, she just kept her eyes on the floor. The more she stayed quiet, the angrier I became. Still, I made every effort not to shout or use profanity. After finishing, another long silence followed. My anger gave way to sadness, and I asked her softly what I had done to push her away. Did she ever love me? Was her affair partner worth all of this? She still said nothing. No tears, no apology, no explanation, just silence. Her head down, refusing to respond. The pain I felt in that moment was crushing, worse even than the day I first found out. Then things got even harder. I realized too late that our daughters had overheard everything. Despite my effort over the past weeks to shield them, the confrontation happened without considering where they were. Our oldest stormed downstairs, furious, and let out all her anger. My wife quickly ran upstairs and locked herself in the bedroom. That's where we stand now. I heard her crying most of the night, until I eventually fell asleep. Only our youngest has spoken to her. The rest of us are keeping our distance. If I can find the courage, I plan to suggest she stay with her sister until we finalize the divorce. But this is still her home, so if she refuses, cohabiting is going to be miserable for everyone. I now realize I was wrong about her, about our marriage, about the memories I thought we shared. I was convinced she would eventually confess, beg for forgiveness, and unburden herself of the truth. I thought guilt would drive her to be honest, but that didn't happen. This is a woman who once returned to a farmer's market after being given too much change. Yet I, and our family, apparently weren't worth that same honesty. I can't help but feel like maybe we never were. Life at home is now unbearably tense. Despite our efforts to keep things routine for the girls, it's obvious we can't carry on this way much longer. I wish I could fast forward through the divorce, the arguments, and the drawn-out process ahead. For those who've had to live under the same roof with an unfaithful spouse, how did you manage, especially with children involved? I keep reading that things get better, but I feel nowhere near that point. There's hardly a moment when I don't want to scream. I'm trying to stay composed for the girls, but I don't know how much longer I can keep this up. School will start before this is resolved, which adds even more stress. Thank you again for the support. I don't know if the worst is behind us or still ahead, but I'm grateful for any advice to help me through the next stage. Fifth update. Since my wife returned home, I've been struggling. I try to keep it together for my daughters, saying the right things, doing the right things. But tonight, I have to admit the truth. The pain comes in waves, and tonight it hit me hard. I've filed for divorce, though my wife hasn't yet hired a lawyer. I was hoping for an uncontested process we could manage ourselves, but now I'm unsure. During the week, she lives at home, but every Friday she goes to her sister's place and returns Sunday evening. It's about an hour away. This has been the routine for weeks now. Avoidance. The girls and I carry on, while she mostly keeps to herself. There are short, casual interactions in the evenings, but nothing substantial. My oldest daughter isn't speaking to her at all, which is probably best for now. I've been following much of the advice I've received, working hard on self-discipline. Around my wife, I keep things short, neutral, polite, and respectful, though it takes enormous effort. But tonight, it broke down. She stayed later than usual, waiting in the kitchen when I came home. As I walked past, she gently grabbed my hand and asked if this was how I intended to treat her, simply because she wasn't ready to talk about the affair. That was the first time she had acknowledged it at all, since everything started nearly a month ago. I tried to walk away, but with the girls gone, the anger finally erupted. I couldn't hold it back anymore. I unloaded everything I'd been bottling up, my pain, rage, and heartbreak. I raised my voice, got emotional, and cried. I don't know how long it lasted, but I poured out everything I had kept inside. For the first time, my wife broke down too. She sobbed uncontrollably, apologizing over and over. I hate to admit it, but part of me felt some relief seeing her finally show emotion, as if she understood the pain she caused. She only managed to say, "I'm so sorry," repeatedly, before I asked her to leave me alone. She lingered for a bit, then left for her sisters. The girls came home shortly after, And though they could tell something happened, I didn't explain. I don't want to put more weight on them, especially since the younger two are finally adjusting somewhat. I regret losing control. I should have just walked away. Maybe she wanted to start a real conversation, but didn't know how. And my explosion cut it off. Despite everything, I found myself worrying about her afterward. While she deserves the consequences of her choices, she's still the mother of my children. It feels like a setback. I vented to my brother afterward, and I'll try to start fresh Monday. For now, I won't text her. I need space. Therapy has begun for all of us, which is a small step forward, but this remains incredibly difficult. Sixth update. Thank you to those who've checked in. Things have been tough, and I've hardly been online. This week has been especially difficult because my wife hasn't given me much space. She's been overly apologetic, crying, trying to be physically close, and knocking on my door at night. I ignored her at times, but occasionally we spoke. On Wednesday, I finally snapped and told her to leave me alone. Then, last night, just over a month since she came back, we finally had a serious talk. After the girls went to bed, she asked to speak in private. We ended up in the garage, sitting in my car, to avoid another confrontation in front of the kids. We talked, or rather, she talked, for nearly 3 hours. She finally told me everything. I won't share every detail right now, but it was a long, emotional night. Since then, I've been caught in a cycle of anger and tears. Sleep has been impossible. Being around her remains painful, even as she continues to apologize and ask for another chance. One key detail. She admitted that her sister introduced her to the man she had the affair with. Well before the pandemic, going back about 5 years, my wife first met the man she eventually had an affair with. At the time, there were no romantic intentions. He was a senior figure at a company where she hoped to work, and she now does. Her desire to change jobs wasn't driven by the affair, but once she was hired, the relationship shifted. Her affair partner began flirting. It started with texts, then escalated to pictures, and more frequent messaging, before turning physical, just before COVID hit. She later confessed to her sister, saying she had thought about coming clean to me then, but ultimately decided to keep quiet. She claims she cut off contact soon after, but once restrictions lifted, he reached out again. They resumed talking, and eventually the physical side of the relationship started again. She says she ended it a couple of times out of guilt, but always went back. In truth, it never really stopped. She shared all of this with me in detail, even providing a 5-page handwritten timeline of her affair. She read it aloud, answering my questions as she went. I learned she had lied about so many things: weekend trips with the girls, work travel, traffic delays, family issues, shopping trips, excuses that were just covers for seeing him. The list was long, and I had believed every word without question. Hearing all of it only made me feel worse, just as many of you warned it would, and yet, her affection toward me during those years never seemed to fade. She never became distant, in the way I'd read about in similar situations. While intimacy did change, it wasn't enough for me to see clear red flags. She admitted she had fallen in love with him and wanted a future with him. He was older, divorced, single, and promised her expensive trips and luxuries. She began fantasizing about leaving family life behind, describing the excitement of being with him as irresistible. She admitted that the routine of daily life bored her, and the affair offered an escape. Her confession was candid, emotional, and appeared genuine. Midway through, I broke down and cried. It was incredibly painful to hear. When she finished, she told me she had always loved me and was willing to do anything to save the marriage. Some of you predicted this reaction, but to me it felt rehearsed. I've known her more than half my life, and I can usually tell when she's being dishonest. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's how it felt. I kept my composure, better than last week, but still grew angry and said things I probably shouldn't have. At one point, I reminded her that her affair partner was seeing other women, and she had just been one of many. That clearly upset her. I had imagined this moment many times, thinking of what I might say, but when it came, most of those lines vanished from my mind. The one question I knew I would ask was this: if her affair partner were still alive, and she had to choose between him and me, who would she pick? She hesitated, then mumbled, "That's not fair." When I pressed her, she finally said she would choose me. I told her that hesitation alone was the reason for the divorce. It showed she was still not being truthful. She broke down crying and stayed silent as we sat there. Exhausted, I told her again that we are divorcing, but that we owe it to our daughters to handle this civilly and remain good parents. I added that after all she had put me through, I hoped she could at least agree to divorce fairly. That would prove she loved me in some way. I ended with something I had read online. I leaned over, kissed her forehead, and said, "I would have loved you forever." I didn't sleep that night, and I can't sleep tonight either. I don't know what happens now. Her time to contest the divorce has already passed, so that's at least one positive. But I haven't yet spoken to my lawyer. I keep cycling through anger and depression. Hearing everything last night was extremely hard, and honestly, I wish I hadn't heard it at all. Of course, there's always the chance she fabricated parts of her confession, for reasons I can't understand. Still, everything she described lines up with what I had already pieced together. This ordeal feels endless. Some days I find strength, then another twist brings me crashing down. Time seems to move both quickly and painfully slowly. I'll try to get some sleep. Imagine this: the love of your life, the only woman you've ever loved, the only one you've ever kissed, admits she cheated for over 4 years. Not because she fell out of love, not because we grew apart, not due to relationship struggles or intimacy issues, just because she was bored. I don't know if that makes it worse or better. Thank you for reading and for the support. The past couple of nights have been very rough. I'll try to respond more tomorrow after some rest. Update after her passing. A month after my 6th update, my wife passed away. Many of you have reached out with messages of support. I've been staying off social media, but I'm truly grateful. The house is silent now, and the reality of the last few months has fully set in. It feels like standing in the path of a storm, waiting for it to pass. There's a deep absence of joy and hope, leaving only emptiness. I've tried to stay strong for my daughters. Through the discovery of the affair, the painful weeks of living under the same roof, the difficult conversations. But now that she's gone, I can't maintain the strong face anymore. Most mornings, I struggle to get out of bed. But I do it for my girls. I replay our final conversation endlessly, regretting my words and wishing I had said something different. The last thing I told her was that I loved her and always would, but also that I wished I never had to see her again. At the time, I was exhausted by the endless apologies. And now, life has taken that wish literally. My daughters are coping in their own ways. My oldest looks after me, makes sure I eat, and watches movies with me. I'm grateful for her. The younger two have returned to their routines, school and sports, which brings me some comfort. My mom and brother have been a great support, though every day remains a struggle. We are all in therapy. The girls seem to benefit, but I find it harder to engage. The guilt and sadness weigh heavily on me. I attend mainly because my oldest insists. As a Christian, I turn to the story of Job, trying to remain faithful despite everything. But I'll admit, I fail often. Sometimes I just want to scream that life isn't fair. I believed I was a good husband and father, that I had lived a moral life, yet I've been dealt this. I feel weak, pathetic, and hollow. What do you do when you reach your absolute lowest? Top comments. One comment read, "You are not at fault here. Your ex caused this. Focus on being the best father you can. Your daughters see you as their stable parent. Be there for them. Try volunteering or joining community groups. It may give you purpose and help others while helping yourself. You can't undo the past, but you can build forward. It will get better. I responded, "This is good advice. Helping someone in need feels right. Maybe lifting others will lift me too. Thank you." Another wrote, "I'm deeply sorry for your loss. You were a loving husband and an outstanding father. You didn't deserve what happened. No one can blame you for divorcing her or for how you reacted. Her affair and her decisions were hers alone. Her suicide was her choice, not your fault. Don't take responsibility for that. Your last words to her were said in pain, but caused by her actions. Forgiving her may be difficult, but in time, you may find peace." I replied, "I know you are right. It's just hard to see it right now. These weeks have been dark. But maybe forgiveness is something I should eventually work toward. That will take time." And finally, you were betrayed, but you handled it with dignity. Stay strong for your daughters. You did nothing wrong. Viewers, what are your thoughts? Share your words of encouragement in the comments below.